This is the storage building of my shop, and as you can see, aside from the bats that are no longer hanging from the ceiling, the insulation kind, not the squeaky cave-dwelling flying rat kind, not much in here has changed. To start seeing some change, we need to go up there, to the roof, not to heaven. Actually, not much has changed up here either, although I did fix some roof leaks. That's something. That's not to say there are no problems. As you can see, the metal panels are rustier than an out-of-practice bagpipe player. And I'm not sure if I should cover this rust up with some form of product or just replace all the metal panels entirely. So in the meantime, I've just left it as a problem for later. But I have actually done some real work up here, just not on the roof over this building. The main work I've done is on the roof over the main shop over there. If you watched part 3 of my saw project series, you'll recall that I said it gets rather warm in the shop, which causes me to get very angry and my clothes to get very wet. And that's because we have a big ball of fire in the sky that can only be contained with a Dyson sphere. And that big ball of fire in the sky likes to project radiant heat down onto us. Radiant heat that bare metals, like the kind used in these roofing panels, like to absorb. On a sunny day, these roofing panels can get well over 50 degrees Fahrenheit above the surrounding ambient temperature, which then projects down into the shop, making it a giant convection oven. To combat this, I applied a reflective elastomeric roof coating over the entire surface of the main shop's roof. I had low hopes that this stuff would work as advertised, but the results were immediate. With the previous bare metal roof, as soon as the sun came out, the temperature inside the shop would surge and it would quickly become unbearable inside. After applying the roof coating, the temperature inside the shop actually lagged behind the outside temperature just a little bit. Now, I did more roof repairs up here, but we'll talk about that later because I've got a good storyline going on here. So I'm going to meet you down in the shop. The reflective roof coating was a great start at leveling out the temperature inside the shop, but it by no means went far enough. For example, if it was 90 degrees outside, it would still be something like 88 degrees inside, which is no fun at all. Also, and rather obviously, a reflective roof coating does jack zippity in the winter. So to level out the inside temperature in the shop even more, I had this entire main building insulated. That's right, we're getting into full-on renovation territory now. I hired an insulation crew to come and blow in fiberglass insulation into the wall cavities in a process that's known as drill and fill, and they put vinyl-faced R19 bats everywhere else in the building on the exposed wall and ceiling sections. So now the entire building is pretty well insulated. Now the temperature inside the shop is super stable. The inside of the shop acts like a temperature capacitor. Before the insulation job and the roof treatment, a 95-degree day would have meant baking cookies on my workbench and watering flowers with my shirt squeezings. But after the insulation job and roof treatment, on a 95-degree day, it only got up to 80 in here, which is obviously a substantial difference. Clearly the roof coat and building insulation did their part in making a huge difference in my shop's hospitability, but those two things are just the first 2 parts in my 3-part shop comfortization plan. The third and final part involves electricity. I installed 2 Pioneer mini-split heat pumps in my shop. They're 24,000 BTUs each for a total of 48,000 BTUs, or 4 tons if you're the type of person that wants to know how much ice your AC unit is putting out of a job. 36,000 BTUs, or 3 tons, probably would have been enough, but I wanted to upsize just to be safe. I chose these Pioneer mini-splits for many reasons, but the 2 main reasons are because they're DIY friendly and they're super quiet. This one's on right now. In a past video when I whined about my shop being too hot, a lot of you told me to just suck it up and use a fan. Well, aside from the fact that a fan would just be blowing hot air at me, let me tell you the problem with that. This shop is basically my recording studio, and I don't know if you realize this, but a normal fan is noisy. These mini splits, as I just mentioned, are super quiet, and to show you just how quiet they are, I've bought a decibel meter. On high, this unit puts out just 45 decibels. For comparison, my shop fan puts out more than that on its lowest setting. And remember, 24,000 BTUs is pretty big for a mini split. Less maxi mini splits are even quieter. Pioneer's 12,000 BTU unit is rated at 36 decibels on high. And of course, these things are hardly ever going to be running on high. It'll be running at a low speed for efficiency most of the time. Now, of course, they're not completely inaudible. They're the only thing in the shop making any noise at all, but you're not going to hear it on video, and they're not loud enough for me to remember they exist, so that's all that matters. Of course, there are tons of other benefits as well. They have variable rate compressors, so they can stay on at a low capacity all day instead of kicking on at full bore in intervals throughout the day. They're super efficient. These are rated at 16 SEER, but they also have a 22 SEER line of mini splits. They're reversible heat pumps, so they can act as heaters, which makes them year-round climate control. Installation is straightforward. There's an inside unit, an outside unit, and just some refrigerant pipes and electricity connecting the two. I had to get some specialty HVAC tools and do some wiring, which is something you may want to hire out for, but for me, the installation was 100% DIY. So if you want to add year-round climate control to your shop, office, or other smallish room, head over to Pioneer's website and grab yourself some mini splits. They also have ducted ceiling units and some other stuff like that. The first 25 people to use the discount code AGINGWHEELS will receive a discount of 3% on orders of $99 or more. These mini splits, in conjunction with this shop installation, are the single best upgrade I've done to my shop so far. I really mean that. It's 68 degrees in here. It's 85 outside. It's wonderful. Full disclosure, this video is not sponsored, but Pioneer did send me both of these mini split units for the price of one. And I want to make it very clear that I contacted them about this deal. They didn't contact me. I was going to buy both of these mini split units for my shop, even if they didn't give me a stellar deal. Heck, I was going to buy both of these units even if they didn't reply to my email. Quick little addendum here in the interest of honesty. I messed something up during installation, specifically when connecting the refrigerant pipes. I say that because after about a week, the refrigerant has leaked out of this unit and it's not functioning properly anymore. This is entirely my fault since I'm the one that installated the unit, and it has nothing to do with Pioneer or the quality of their units. I just thought I would add that. Thankfully, their tech support helpline is extremely helpful. I already called them once to ask a few technical questions about the unit, and they know what they're doing. So I'll be doing that again to fix this issue. I could legitimately spend an entire video talking about these mini splits, but there's more to talk about with the shop. And this isn't aging air conditioners. So let's talk about roof leaks. The roof peak on my shop has a pretty terrible design that I'll now illustrate using wood. Imagine this is the roof peak, and imagine this is the rest of the metal roofing. Now the roof peak overlaps the metal roofing, which is perfectly normal and would block out rain, but it only overlaps it a couple of inches, if that. Now that's not bad enough, but the fitment between the two panels is pretty bad in most spots, which leaves a gap that isn't supposed to be there, and it already lets water and bugs in if it were to be windy or the bugs crawl in. But to make matters even worse, my roof has very little rake to it and is mostly flat. So every time it rained, water would just capillary right into this seam and into the shop. And water would leak basically over the entire length of the roof along that seam. So what did I do to solve this issue? Spray foam. I applied a 1-inch layer of 2-component closed-cell spray foam insulation over the entirety of the roof peak, followed by an elastomeric roof coating over top of that. This is a fairly common roofing practice. You use spray foam to fill all the voids and create a monolithic barrier against water. And it ended up working extremely well, but I encountered a problem. The spray foam mixes in the nozzle of the gun, and at some point after roughly 10 feet of spraying, one side of the nozzle apparently got jammed. I only know this because the first 10 feet or so of foam is properly cured and hard to the touch, and I can walk on it and everything's good. But the entire rest of the foam did not cure properly and has the consistency roughly of a wet marshmallow. Now that spray foam crap was $340, but luckily because it was defective, I managed to get a full refund on it. But instead of trading it in on another second canister of spray foam and risk the same bad mixing thing happening again, I used the refund money to buy a super high quality rubber roof coat that was actually triple the cost of the original roof coat that I used for the entire rest of the roof. I then used this high quality rubber membrane over top of the entirety of the roof peak. While the badly cured foam is weak and soft, it does still cover the entire roof peak and all of its gaps. So applying a rubber membrane over top of it should provide a watertight barrier even if I can't really walk on most of the roof peak. Because of the high quality rubber membrane over the top of the roof peak, I have good faith in this repair lasting, especially in the first 10 feet or so where the foam cured properly, but I'm going to come up here and check it every month or so just to keep an eye on it. I bet you're wondering at this point how much all of this roof repairage cost me. Well, all in, between the spray foam, roof peak water tightness repair thing and the rest of the roof coating, I spent well over $1,000 on this roof. Way more than I was expecting, but at least my roof is watertight and doesn't act like a solar furnace. That's something. Also, several days worth of labor putting this all into place. And while I'm on the subject of money, the insulation job cost me $5,500, and the Pioneer air conditioners cost me $1,100, plus the cost of extraneous installation supplies. Back to the shop. Speaking of snakes, I still don't know how to make good segues. In my last shop update, I mentioned that the brown recluse is the dominant life form on this planet, but I'm not sure I properly conveyed the scale of this issue. As an example, here's a photo I took of the inside of just one of the outlets in the shop. Most of these are just molted exoskeletons, but there is a live one in this photo. And if that photo wasn't enough to give you nightmares, consider this. If I sat anything down on the floor of my shop overnight, by the next morning, it would be guaranteed that if I were to pick up that thing, there would be at least one brown recluse residing underneath it. More often than not, it would be more than one, but it was a guarantee there would be at least one brown recluse underneath it. I'm describing this issue in the past tense because I've since fixed the issue. All I had to do was set off bug bombs. In each building, twice. Now, after declaring war on the dominant life form in my shop, I don't have to worry about brown recluses anymore. It's not like they're all gone, but I rarely see them anymore, and the constant fear and paranoia I used to have is pretty much gone. Plus, it's nice to be able to sit things on the floor again. Also, I found this 5-foot black snake living in my shop. I'm sure someone like my grandmother would have attacked it with a hoe or other violent instrument of gardening, but I left it alone. It doesn't bother me. Lastly, I wanted to show you the window. As you can see, I blocked it off. I blocked off all the windows in the shop with 2-inch foam board insulation and Reflectix because single pane windows are a massive heat loss zone and natural light messes with video anyway. I've adorned this particular windowsill with trinkets from the shop, like this massive stack of glass panes that the insulation crew just found in the wall cavities. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it's interesting. Also, there's this sign over here that I just found in the shop when I moved in. I don't know who Jim was, but I think I've dethroned him by now. Plus, I added some little bits of shop memory to the sign. This is a cutout from one of the sections of wall that was covered in paint splatter from back in the day when this was an auto body shop. And this is a petrified spotted salamander I found in the pit that I've named Jimmy. Kind of reminds me of the logo that Icon puts on all of their cars. So I've done a ton of work and spent a ton of money on this shop, but what do I have left to do? Because projects like this, they're never done. Well, for starters, I haven't filled in the pit yet. I'll get to it eventually, and no, I'm not turning it into an indoor swimming pool or a giant ball pit, so stop asking me. There's 5 snake skins behind me. You want to swim in a ball pit with that? I don't think so. I still haven't replaced this old garage door that is now the single biggest thermal bridge in the entire shop. I need to replace the main shop door because it's falling apart, is a massive heat sink, and there's a gap under the door that's literally big enough to let in lizards. Oh, I see you. Lastly, and this is more of a nice to have, I plan to put in a rainwater collection system into my shop so I can have a sink and a bathroom again. And because putting in a rainwater collection system sounds like a fun thing to do. That's pretty much it for the shop updates. Obviously, I'm super stoked to have a shop that's comfortable now, and I can now spend long hours in here. And really the only downside is somewhat temporary. I was planning to get another car by the end of the year, probably something French this time, but now that I've spent so much money making my shop amazing, I just can't do that. So I'll probably spend my time working on the cars that I already have. Also, could someone please buy the smart car? Just get it out of here. $3,000 and it's yours. I don't want it anymore. It's taking up valuable space and battery tender real estate. Thank you, Angry Salesman Robert. As always, if you want to support what I'm doing, you can show your love with Patreon. I have merchandise that's very stale by this point. And even though I don't say it enough, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video that will actually be about cars again.